What if everything you were told about capitalism was wrong? Here's a question that might make someone twirl a pencil in their hair. What if the system we live under, the one that promises freedom and fairness, is actually designed to make sure most people never truly experience either? What if there are two amazing ideas, sitting quietly on the edges of political philosophy that could completely reshape how human beings relate to one another? And what if almost nobody is talking about the real difference between them? Today we're diving into something that most people either misunderstand or dismiss entirely. Mutualism versus communism. Two ideologies, two visions of the future. One profound question: which one gets closer to the truth about human nature? This isn't just political theory, this is personal. This is about the paycheck that never seems to be enough, the rent that keeps climbing, and the utility, food and credit card bills. It's about the burning sense that something is deeply wrong. It's about the startling realization that thinkers from centuries ago had already diagnosed the disease and offered a cure. By the end of this video, the world might look a little different, and that's exactly the point. Part 1, the world is broken and here's why. Imagine a man, and let's call him Thomas. Thomas works 50 hours a week at a warehouse. He's not lazy, he's not uneducated, but at the end of every month he's scraping for money at the bottom of his bank account while the company he works for posts record profits. Thomas doesn't hate capitalism in theory. He's been sold since birth about its merits, but now he lives with its consequences every single day. He's not alone. According to Oxfam, the 10 richest men in the world doubled their fortunes during the COVID-19 pandemic, while over 160 million people were pushed into poverty. That's not a glitch. That's our capitalist system working exactly as it was designed to do. Now here's where philosophy comes in. Two very different thinkers, separated by decades, by temperament and by philosophical focus, looked at a world like Thomas's and said, enough. Pierre-Joseph Proudhon and Peter Kropotkin each offered a stunning alternative, not a patch on the existing system, a complete reimagining of political and social reality itself. Part 2, Proudhon's shocking revelation. Let's talk about mutualism. If the current capitalist system is a predatory shark, mutualism is more like a massive, bustling coral reef where everyone has a place. In 1840, Pierre-Joseph Proudhon wrote something so scandalous, a book called What is Property, that it got him arrested. He declared that property is theft. Not all property, not your shoes, not your toothbrush, but the kind of property that allows one person to profit from another person's labour without lifting a finger themselves. He advocated for possession, meaning workers own the tools and land they use, but not for exploiting others. Proudhon was the father of mutualism, a form of anarchist socialism, and his idea was, at its core, elegantly simple. A worker should receive the full value of what they produce. No middleman, no boss skimming off the top, no banker charging interest on credit that was never theirs to give in the first place. He believed in markets, but not capitalism's markets. Mutualism is market agnostic. It doesn't say money is evil. It says monopoly is evil. It says the concentration of power is evil. Proudhon imagined something remarkable. Decentralized markets run entirely by worker-owned cooperatives. This would include small-scale producers such as craftsmen and farmers. These are people who actually make things and trade fairly with one another. Think of a world where there are no giant, soul-crushing corporations. Instead, there are only worker-owned cooperatives. You and your friends own the oven. You keep the full value of your labour. There is no CEO sitting in a penthouse taking a cut of your hard work. And to make this possible, Proudhon proposed mutual banks. These are institutions that offer low interest or interest-free credit to workers. Workers would pay just enough to cover a small administrative fee. Instead of going to a massive financial institution that wants to trap you in a cycle of debt with high interest, you go to a credit union owned by the community. They provide you with the capital to start your business at a near zero interest rate. Why? Because the goal isn't to make the bank rich. The goal is to make the community thrive. It is a spectacular shift in perspective. It moves us away from the dog-eat-dog mentality and toward a you help me, I help you reality. Think about what that means for someone like Thomas. Instead of borrowing money from a bank that profits off his desperation, he could access credit through a community institution that exists to serve him, not to extract from him. This is mutualism. It doesn't abolish exchange. It keeps the dynamism of markets while stripping out the parasitic layer of capitalist ownership. And here's the thing that makes it so perplexing to most people. Mutualism actually sounds reasonable. It doesn't ask Thomas to give up his autonomy. It doesn't tell him what to produce or how to live. It just removes the boot from his throat. Part 3, Kropotkin disagreed about markets. Now enter Peter Kropotkin, a Russian prince who gave up his aristocratic privilege to become one of the most profound revolutionary thinkers in history. If Proudhon was the pragmatist, Kropotkin was the dreamer. and his dream was, frankly, more radical. In his landmark work, Mutual Aid, A Factor of Evolution, Kropotkin made an astonishing argument which was a direct challenge to the survival of the fittest dogma of his time. Kropotkin observed that in nature, the species that survived best weren't the strongest or the meanest. They were the ones that cooperated, the ones that formed herds, flocks, and communities. He said that cooperation, not competition, is the true engine of human survival. He looked at nature, at history, at villages and communities across the globe, and found something the social Darwinists of his era desperately wanted to ignore. Human beings thrive when they help each other. His vision was that of anarchist communism. This was not the authoritarian and fascist nightmare of the Soviet Union or China. That bears repeating. Kropotkin's communism had no government, no dictator, no gulag. It was a gift economy. You take what you need because you are part of the group. Kropotkin wanted to scale that up to the whole world. He said, from each according to his ability to each according to his needs. It sounds like a miraculous dream, doesn't it? No money, no prices. Just a communal pool of resources where we all contribute what we can and take what we need to live a dignified life. He believed that the truth of our existence is that we are all interconnected. My bread is only possible because someone else built the road and someone else mined the iron for the truck and someone else taught me how to read the recipe. Everything is a collective heritage. To claim a piece of it as mine and charge for it is, in his eyes, an unthinkable crime against humanity. Kropotkin argued that even in a worker-owned market, you still have the problem of exchange. As soon as you start putting a price tag on things, you start creating winners and losers. You create a system where the person who is stronger or faster gets more, while the person who is sick or elderly gets less. If my co-op has a great harvest of wheat and your co-op has a bad year for livestock, I can hold out for a better price. I can create artificial scarcity. I can hoard. Even without capitalists, the logic of the market encourages us to see each other as competitors rather than comrades. Some people have objected to this vision of anarchist communism. Wouldn't people just take more than they give? Wouldn't some people refuse to contribute? Kropotkin's answer was staggering in its depth. He pointed to centuries of human communities, from indigenous tribes to medieval guilds, where people naturally organized themselves around cooperation and shared responsibility without any authority forcing them to. The profound truth, he suggested, is not that people are selfish by nature. The truth is that capitalism trains them to be. He argued that people don't actually hate work, they hate toil. They hate being forced to do mindless, repetitive tasks for someone else's profit. Look at the world around you. People spend thousands of hours gardening, coding open source software, or raising children for free. Why? Because these things provide meaning. In this system of anarchist communism, the question isn't, how much can I get for my labour? The question is, what do we need to survive and thrive as a community? Production is collective. Planning is collective. Distribution is based on need, not on what you can afford. It's an extraordinary vision of total social equality, where the very concept of your money or my stuff starts to dissolve into our stuff. Part 4, the stunning overlap nobody talks about. Here's something that might blindside even the most informed political observer. Despite their profound differences, mutualism and communism share a common soul. Both reject the state, both reject capitalism, both believe that human beings are capable of organising their lives without a ruling class telling them what to do. Both Proudhon and Kropotkin were animated by the same burning conviction, that hierarchy, whether economic or political, is not natural and not needed. It is constructed, and what is constructed can be dismantled. The striking thing about both these ideologies is that they aren't just about economics, they're about the psychology of freedom. We are currently living in a state of constant low-grade terror, including the fear of losing our jobs, fear of being unable to afford healthcare, and fear of being alone. Mutualism and communism both seek to address these fears. Mutualism does it by giving you ownership of your tools and your life. Communism does it by guaranteeing that your survival is never, ever in question. Imagine the shift in your consciousness if you knew with absolute certainty that no matter what happened, you would have a roof over your head and food on your table. Think about how much more creative you would be, how much kinder you would be to the stranger on the street. The staggering truth is that our current system relies on our insecurity to keep us working. It needs us to be a little bit afraid all the time. Whether it's through a network of cooperatives or a global gift economy, the goal is the same: to move from surviving to flourishing, or as Aristotle said, eudaimonia. Many anarchist thinkers across history have treated mutualism not as a final destination, but as a transition, a kind of scaffolding. They say to use worker-owned cooperatives and mutual banks to dismantle the capitalist structure first. Once the power of capital is broken, once people have learned to trust one another within democratic economic institutions, the gift economy becomes not just possible but inevitable. This is, in its own way, deeply hopeful. It says that the road to a fully communal society doesn't require a revolution that happens overnight. It can be built piece by piece in the lived experience of ordinary people. Part 5. Which direction? So here you are, standing at the fork in the road. Both paths lead away from the wage slavery of capitalism. Both paths promise an end to the deep, dark loneliness of the subjugated worker. Both paths speak to that feeling of theft from the man, but they lead in different directions, and choosing between them is an existential dilemma. The mutualist looks at the communist vision and says, "That's beautiful, but it's impossible." You're asking human nature to change. You're asking people to give up the fruits of their specific labour for the good of the whole, without any guarantee of return. What about the person who works twice as hard? What about the person who wants to build something on their own? Your system relies on a level of altruism that history has never shown to be sustainable. Without prices, how do we know what's scarce? How do we know what to produce? You'll end up with too many left-handed screwdrivers and not enough bread. You need the price signal, you need the market, just without the parasites. The communist looks back at the mutualist and shakes their head sadly. You're naive. You think you can have a market without creating class. Look at any successful co-op. Eventually they start hiring outside labour. Eventually they start competing. Eventually the desire for more creeps in. Your system still ties survival to labour. What about the disabled? What about the elderly? What about the person who just wants to paint? In your world, they still need to trade something. In our world, they just need to be. Your mutualism is just capitalism with a human face, and that face will eventually harden into a mask of greed. You haven't gone deep enough. You haven't cured the disease. You've just made the symptoms less painful. This is the argument. It's not an argument about policy, it's an argument about the very nature of reality, consciousness, and human connection. It's an argument about what we owe each other. Part 6. Why should anyone actually care? This is where philosophy stops being academic and starts being urgent. Thomas, our warehouse worker, lives in a world where his existence is quantified. His worth is measured in productivity metrics. His freedom is conditional on his ability to pay rent. His loneliness is systemic, not personal. The alienation he feels isn't a character flaw. Karl Marx called it precisely what it is. Alienation from the product of one's labour, from one's fellow human beings, and from one's own humanity. Both mutualism and communism in their different ways are answers to Thomas's condition. Mutualism says, give Thomas ownership of his labour, access to fair credit, and a stake in the enterprise. Communism says, liberate Thomas from the entire framework of labour as transaction. Neither answer is simple, neither is without its challenges. But human beings have sat with the pain of exploitation and produced, from that pain, extraordinary visions of what could be. Proudhon wrote, to be governed is to be watched, inspected, directed, law-driven. And in that sentence, something profound clicks into place. Because most people, regardless of their politics, have felt that. They have felt the suffocating sense that the system exists not to serve them, but to manage them. Part 7. The choice that defines our time. As we wrap this up, look at your hands. Those hands have the power to create, to help, and to build. Currently, those hands are likely working to build someone else's dream, but it doesn't have to stay that way. The truth is that we are the ones who make the world move. Without our labour, the entire spectacular machine of modern society grinds to a halt. We have the power. We've just forgotten how to use it collectively. And whether you find yourself drawn to the fair market balance of mutualism or the radical, loving embrace of communism, the lesson is the same. You are worth more than your productivity. Your life has intrinsic value that cannot be measured in dollars or cents. We are living through a time of unimaginable change, and the old ways are clearly failing us. It's time to stop looking for a leader to save us and start looking at each other. The bridge to a new existence isn't built of steel or stone or even artificial intelligence. It's built of the connections we make when we decide that no one should have to struggle alone. The future isn't something that happens to us. It's something we create with every choice we make.